and it's the first episode with an undergrad here.
Very, very like unique incubator of minds.
You know, like, what advice would you give to a high school student?
Authentically telling my story.
I was looking at your videos this summer.
I've been telling people that this was the happiest season of my life.
Hello friends, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today we're with Ruben Stephen. Welcome, Ruben.
Hello.
Thank you for coming here.
Of course.
So Ruben is a junior at MIT in mechanical engineering, and we're going to be speaking a little bit about what's undergrad here at MIT and other personal experiences that he has, which are very interesting. So let's start with the podcast. So first, you're an undergrad here at MIT, and it's the first episode with an undergrad here. So I'm very, very interested in your experience here.
Thank you. I guess like which part specifically would you like to know about?
Let's start with one day at MIT.
So I guess I could like pick. Okay, so this Monday, it stood out a bit because of the fact that I did this luncheon for the mechanical engineering department because there was visiting professors and deans from the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom, and this is like one of my days. This is like the first day of that week. I start off. Yeah, I guess I'll just go through like a typical day for me. I wake up around 5 a.m. It's not typical of my career, but like this semester, I'm still like, oh, I'm gonna lock in and be like super duper on top of everything still. And so far, so good. So up at 5 a.m., I make sure I make a point of like not touching my phone for at least 2 hours because I've like I'll use it to like track when I go run. So like, at least for the first hour, my phone is like away from me. I wake up, hit push-ups, squats, stretch, then head to the bathroom, then go outside like almost immediately after, and I'll bring like my ID instead of my phone so that I can get back inside. But then it's like literally just be in tune with your body. And part of the reason why is because my classes, I'm taking a class called 2005, which is thermofluids engineering, and it starts at 9 a.m. And I'm like, I don't know why, because like it's a notoriously difficult class. Like within the department, it's like, oh, yeah, that's class I'm gonna take. And like you put that at 9 a.m. Y'all just don't want me to win. And so I decided to wake up earlier so that I can go into it more like heads on as opposed to like having it attack me. Yeah, so 9 to 11, I went to class. I had a GEL class, which is Gordon's engineering leadership program. I have that class from 11 to 12:30, but I had to leave early to go to the luncheon. After the luncheon, I accompanied the visiting party to 2009, which is the senior capstone. I kind of wasn't supposed to be there, but I had an empty block in my schedule. So I sat in on that lecture, and it was really interesting. That class is about product design, which is something that I'm personally interested in. And I also feel like I've kind of been rambling, and so I'm going to cut it off here.
Thank you for sharing. And how's like undergrad at MIT organized? Like how many courses do you need to take?
It depends on which your major is. At least for me, I've been comfortable with about 48. That's 4 full-time classes to 60, which is 5. Like that's around my like sweet spot in terms of course load per semester. But overall, in terms of to complete your degree, I don't know if I could give an exact number.
But like you can take classes from mechanical engineering, but also from like leadership or entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
that's very cool. I think that's something that we usually can do in Spain. So that's very, very nice. Yeah, and like, how did you get here? How was high school? What did you do?
Yeah, so I feel as though my path to MIT was a bit atypical in the sense that I wasn't one of the science Olympiad, perfect SAT score, like research professor having done type of student. I think like if I were to put it in a nutshell, the way that I got in was authentically telling my story and also like having the, I guess, competency to, because realistically, like this is kind of, I'm trying to say it without like just going into like my admission spiel, but like I like nowadays help out like high school students doing the same thing, and realistically like the way that, and so it gave me like a different insight on like how they were viewing me, and like my story was of resilience, because I guess like zooming out a little bit, I'm from South Florida originally, and I'm the youngest of 6 Haitian immigrants. And the environment I grew up in, like my familial situation, I guess like wasn't the most smooth, and so didn't really have access to like the income to be like affording things like those opportunities or like being able to have transportation to and from. And so the main things I say I did is like I had a 4.0 unweighted GPA or it was like a 3.9 something, like really close to like my academics were really solid. I got a 1520 on my SAT score, 770 in math. I had taken 11 AP classes, particularly like there was a within the classes I was taking, there was like a focus towards math and science. I was also taking dual enrollment classes. So like at my local community college, I had pursued like calculus 2 and 3. I had done differential equations and linear algebra by the time I graduated high school. And yeah. Oh, and then in terms of extracurriculars, I had played varsity basketball, volleyball. I ran track and field. I was a part of my school's Black Student Union. I was part of their National Honor Society. I was heavily like involved in volunteering and like serving the community. And I think what's important is like having the admissions officer be able to understand like how you're going to continue to succeed and thrive and like do the thing that you were doing in high school with the resources that you get at MIT. And like if you look back at the things I was doing then and now, there's like clear like, oh wow, I was tutoring and doing all this stuff in high school. It's like I'm continuing to do it now.
That's wow. That's an incredible curriculum for a high school.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Shout out to Suncoast Community High School. I honestly don't think I would be here if not for having gone there.
Yeah. That's beautiful to say. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I feel like you guys are like very well prepared to come here as an undergrad. And yeah, like I don't know why like students we don't have a lot of like relationship with undergrads. I don't know why. Like
Yeah.
maybe in class there are some classes that I've seen undergrads also, but that's it. Like I don't know. We're a bit like divided.
Yeah.
And yeah, I found you like through Instagram. I was looking at your videos this summer. You were doing like an internship at a startup, and I was like, I didn't know this part of MIT. I didn't know like undergrads like were like this. So yeah, so I was very interested in that startup experience. So if you want to share a little bit on that.
Yeah, so this past summer, I was working at a startup called Studio 38 based out of Greentown Labs. And in short, what they do is they make desktop form factor metal 3D printers. And the core idea or problem that the company aims to solve is to make it so that engineers and designers are able to get like usable pieces and parts within days instead of weeks, because a big issue like within like mechanical engineering in particular is when you send things out to be machined, you might end up getting stuck behind like weeks of lead time, or if you're trying to get something imported from overseas, especially nowadays, it's particularly rough because there's also that like high markup. And then in addition to that, if you're using typical machining processes, there's only like a level of detail or like geometry that you're able to do just because of the nature of like how a mill works. Like you're not going to be able to get like, for example, there's like ball and cage is like a test for like 3D printers in general. And so it's like you can't do that. Basically like giving yourself the ability to do that with metal is the core thesis of the company.
And I guess how was it being in a startup?
It was beautiful. I'm gonna be honest. Like people have been like, you know, when you get back to campus, so it's, how was your summer? How was your summer? And like unironically, I've been telling people that this was the happiest season of my life, like hands down. And a big part of that was because of, I think, the startup experience. Because I've talked to some of my friends who were in corporate, and I'm gonna be honest, it didn't. I think I made the right choice. Because of the fact that like since it's a smaller company, you get to touch all the different pieces of it. So in addition to getting a education within like mechanical engineering and electrical, like I got to work on projects that were like mechanical design. I got to work on software projects that were about DevOps. I got to work on electrical engineering and like integrating the hardware and the software and like basically like doing embedded systems work. And in addition, so like that was a beautiful like, because in addition to mechanical engineering, I'm in the major I'm in is 2A6, which is mechanical engineering with a concentration in computer science. And so my like I guess career trajectory is like aiming towards robotics and like that sort of the marrying of the mechanical and the software. And so getting to do that like had me incredibly happy from a technical perspective. And then if it was just that, that would have been great and beautiful, and I feel like I would have been full. But then I also got to see like behind the scenes of what it is like from the business perspective and how it is to run a startup, and seeing what the co-founders' relationship was like, I think was immensely valuable. Like one, the explicit knowledge that they were giving me, like their interactions and introductions of me to their technical advisors, but also like the intangible, like being in the presence of what the, I think in particular, like the way that they handle conflicts and disagreements was incredibly profound to like see and like witness. Like I would like, because also mind you, it was when I was there, it was me, the two co-founders, and then the one full-time software engineer.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so and so it'd be like me right here, it'd be the software engineer. Shout out Dan. It's Dan, Casey, and Cassie. I love them so much. And so it'd be like these two desks, they'd be on the other, it'd be another table, and then two co-founders on the other side, and then that was just like the office. And so I'm speaking, I love the fact that the hierarchy felt very flat. It wasn't a lot of bureaucracy. So if anybody's out there thinking about where to intern, I would definitely say at least consider a startup, because you'll learn so much so quickly, and you'll have direct tangible impact to a company. Like even now, because it's funny, like I still have like the Slack channel for now. They're gonna boot me off of it, but like they'll text me like, oh look, they'll text me screenshots of the DevOps tool that I made for like monitoring prints, and like it's having direct tangible use to them, like a project that I made. Yeah, and it's just like it made me so happy.
Yeah, of course. Yes, because like I guess you spend all year studying and learning a lot of things, but you want to see all of that applied.
Yeah.
And it's true that in a startup you can see that quickly applied more than.
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, so you're a junior year, so you still have 2 more years at least here at MIT.
Yeah.
But what do you want to do after?
So that's the grand question. The way I tell people is that the longer term, like North Star, has more clarity than like the immediate next steps. Like in particular, I'm kind of torn between whether or not to go to grad school. Catch me freshman and like sophomore year, the answer was a hard no. I want to just finish school. I'm so sick of being honest. Like I don't think I love academia, and so I'm like I've done like, yeah, it's pulling up on 16 years of school, and I'm like, make it stop. I'm tired. Let me go. And also, a big part of like why I even chose mechanical engineering and ended up, I think, getting any of this was because of that like lack of financial security and a desire to like overcome that. And so it's like getting towards a salary would be very nice.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess like the reason why I'm considering maybe thinking about grad school is because of what it might provide in terms of one, just deepening my knowledge, also credibility. Since I create content, I want to ensure that I have like the technical, I guess, like expertise to actually back it up. But in terms of what I want to do long term involves entrepreneurship. I'm not sure exactly what the final end product is, but I know a good portion of that is going to be the personal brand, which is why I decided to start early and like, I guess, like plant seeds for the tree I'm trying to build.
Okay. So what's like that future goal? Would it be like content creator full time?
I think it would be. It's hard to like give examples exactly. Like I used to say, like position like Black Joe Rogan or Black Tim Ferriss, but I think at the older I've gotten, like the more that I've like where I am now is like, oh no, I have the opportunity to be my own different, in my opinion, better thing, because it's gonna be, instead of becoming an emulation or translation of somebody else, I'm fully being myself. And so I don't know I can't point to examples because the idea is that I'm gonna create it, but I want to combine the technical with the interpersonal and communication, because I would say like my two core passions, like obviously the science, physics, math. That's why I'm here, and like I still do engineering because I think at my core I just love creation. And if it wasn't like, I think I'd be like a starving artist type if not for the fact that I felt an obligation to make money to support my family. And so engineering, that's why I think it's like very poetic that like the very technical major I chose at the core is still art, I believe, because like you're doing like, it's mechanical design. And so I don't know, it's really, so like I want to be able to create in the hard physical objective world, and then use that safety net and blanket of having that hard skill to support the more intangible artistic pursuits. And so, yeah, and I think, okay, at some point, I very much think there's going to be some sort of hard tech startup. In my head, it may or may, that's what I'm saying. It's very ambiguous how like the next steps are. But I was thinking like AI robotics for the growing geriatric population. However, this is, I'm fairly sure like startups of this already exist and or are going to exist by the time I'm ready to go execute on it when I graduate. And so that's like, I'm open to having that pivot. But yeah, like that in addition to, I want the podcast to continue. I want to have my, yeah, basically like my overall like raison d'etre, like reason for existence, I guess, is I want to be a continual learner and then pass the rope back down to two steps behind me. And so right now, the most, I guess, like notable accomplishment, I guess, or like desired outcome that I could be giving to people is like, okay, I got into MIT from, I guess, relatively like low means. How did you do that? So that's what the content a lot about that is. And then I guess, yeah, that's one, I guess, purpose that the content serves. But then there's also, what is it like to be a person of color in somewhere like MIT that is very much not? And trying to, I guess, like, yeah, like the overall goal is to make enough money to like support my community at scale while also serving my personal desires for self-expression and art while creating things.
Wow, and I think you're working very hard.
Thank you.
So yeah, I admire that so much. So yeah, so I think your technical background is solid. So now we can translate a little bit to personal part. So how's MIT for you more in the personal side?
It is, I would say, a mixed bag. I'm like eternally grateful for coming here and like the friends that I've made here, because this is such a very, very like unique incubator of minds. And I like, it really doesn't feel real to me sometimes that it's like, oh yeah, I just walk out of my room, I look to my right, look to my left, this whole hall is full of super geniuses and we all just go to school together. And I live like, it's like, and and like super geniuses, but like I can crack a joke with these people and it's like, it's really, really nice. But that, I say, is in pockets as a person of color at MIT. And so like I say that when I walk out of my room, I can see that. But then when I go onto campus, it's not so much the same. And I would say that's why it's like a mixed bag, because there is a strong feeling of alienation and isolation, especially like coming from the background that I came from. Like even within the Black community, I think like personally, I feel a bit like I don't fit the exact mold. Like I do not think I am a typical MIT student at all. And that's okay. I think that's beautiful. Again, like, yeah, I think it might be worth it to talk about like the roller coaster I've been going on with this. So like freshman year, I get here and it's like almost complete culture shock. Cause again, like I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. And so the demographics there are predominantly like islanders, Caribbean people in particular. So a lot of Afro-Caribbean and Hispanic individuals. And I personally am Haitian, like a lot of my friend group and like the people, even when I was at the more like Suncoast. So Suncoast was not my home school. I very much left where there were more Black people to go to where there was like more East and South Asian individuals as well as like Caucasian people. And then, but even then there were still Black people within Suncoast. I feel like, oh yeah, if I just percentages, I believe at Suncoast it was about 20%, and then at MIT it's 4%. Which, and it's like the difference was felt. And so, and my reactions to it, I think, are the things that have changed. So initially I felt the desire to conform, because I'm like, oh, I got to the super prestigious school, I have to like, one, work myself to the bone. I think we were talking about that a bit before like we started recording, about how it's like, yeah, like you get to MIT and it's like, oh my, I have to like low-key prove that I deserve to be here. And so I was on that sort of timing, in addition to, yeah, like, not to say that any of them are better or worse, but like like from where I'm from, I speak way more colloquially, and like it's slightly more urban culture, and so I felt myself like suppressing my mannerisms, or like also like with my appearance too. Like, mind you, I'm like 6'3". I'm 6'3". I have like not dreads, but I have like two strand twists, and I have like I don't know. I walk around like a man from South Florida, and that's not typical here. And I remember when I first got to MIT, I remember this like very vividly. I was I wasn't in the living group I'm now. I was in a living group that was the demographics leaned more towards what is typical at MIT. And I remember coming out of my room one time and literally seeing someone like jump in fear at me, and that like, oh,
That's not nice.
I don't even, and yeah, it was like a lot of like I think like freshman year was a lot of me like trying to understand like how do I interact with this, because and like where I got to it is like it's not their fault either. It's just like they're not familiar, and it's like I can't really hold it against you that you may have been raised a certain way and like have these preconceived notions about me. I can just be me and be friendly, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, freshman year was about trying to conform, and then near the like second half of it, which is also like when I started making content, I kind of decided like bump that. um, or at least that's when I planted the seeds. Because even then, within the content, I think I was being a bit disingenuous and still like trying to put on a performance. And it wasn't until I think like that summer when I had time to reflect that I was like, this isn't working. And so sophomore year, I think, was a hard swing in the opposite direction. Like I pendulum swing, like, nah, I'm standing on, and I think, yeah, I'm still very much like standing on business, but it was too about the community. Yeah, sophomore year, I overextended myself until I got to the point where I was like feeling burnt out socially, and I went reclusive for a long time to protect my peace again. But nowadays, I would say I've found closer to a balance where I definitely feel as though I fundamentally disagree with the idea that the idiosyncrasies that I have, or like the things that are characteristic of my upbringing, are necessary of suppression. And instead, I see it more as like a superpower, and the fact that I can be a man of both worlds if necessary. I think it's like really cool.
Well, thank you for sharing that deep, personal experience. So I want to learn more about your content creation. How did you start? How do you balance also the high standards of MIT with being a content creator?
Yeah, so how I started content, it was January of 2024, which was IAP of my freshman year. For context, IAP is Independent Activities Period, and it's like the entire month of January, the whole MIT campus is pretty much like free to go do side quests. And I was on campus for a class called 1801A. I didn't particularly like that class.
What's that test about?
It's multivariable calculus.
Oh.
And so it's like basically they're they combine 1801 and 1802, which are like 1801 is single variable, 1802 is multivariable. They combined it into a like 1.5 semester long class. And so I was back during January doing that. And while I was on campus and had the extra time, I was trying to make additional money because again, like low income background, paying for MIT that first year was kind of rough because it was coming out of like my own pockets. And so I thought of it, I was like using it as lead generation for SAT tutoring. And I think it kind of goes back into what I was saying a bit earlier about like feeling slightly disingenuous, because from like a marketing perspective and like a business perspective, the demographic I would be targeting if I'm trying to maximize profits as an SAT math tutor is those more affluent parents, right? And the type of, I guess, what they're expecting in terms of performance is going to be different. And I think I was like leaning more into that. But like, so I was doing that for, I think, from January up until I would say like that July and August, which is like in that summer. is when I like essentially just took off the mask. I got tired of wearing it, and so I'm like, all right, bro, if this is gonna get me clipped, just let me know now. And so I started like documenting my days, and I switched my, I guess, approach. Instead of like trying to make everything super scripted, like when I first started, everything was like a scripted video. Sitting like a lot of them are like in the car, like sitting in the classroom, like reading it off. But I'll just speak impromptu and just like document my day at MIT. And it was like day, I remember the videos were like really bad, but it was like tutor training arc day 47 or something. And it's just like my like walk through like MIT campus or something like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I forgot the other question. You said, how did I start?
Yeah.
And then
Have you balanced?
I've now like gotten better at batching activities and understanding the difference between maker time and managerial time. And so editing or like recording would fall into maker time, and therefore I would need like a 3 hour block of uninterrupted fun on D&D, leave me alone to just like focus on the singular task. Because if I try to do that distracted, it's going to take like 7 hours instead. And it's like, nah, you just need to like, I need to catch momentum and like get in the flow state with it. And then I try to batch the managerial tasks, which are like meetings or conversations I need to have, all together as well. And what helps with that is, again, like the waking up at 5 a.m. because it's like, I know I won't be interrupted because nobody else is awake. And so I can, all right, cool, bang out this P set, or maybe it's content there, and then go to class. Those feel like meetings to me. So it's like, okay, here's an hour here, then like context switch, here's another thing, and then here's another thing. You collect information, and then having another one of those deep work sessions at the end of the day. A lot of the, like, it depends on like what is due. If there's an assignment like that has a deadline, I think in terms of balancing, what really helped me was understanding like the principle of prioritization and like make the main thing, or no, have something be the main thing and keep the main thing until it's done. There's a difference between busyness and effectiveness, or productivity, excuse me. And productivity is whether or not you can get the thing accomplished. If you just have like it's just like having a bunch of open tabs on your computer, because now you just can't,
It's better to focus on one thing and
yeah.
But I like hearing to you because I feel like time management is something that I also struggled a little bit when I started university, and I think you have it mastered. So it's, yeah, I think it's very important to manage your time wisely. So I don't know, like, what advice would you give to a high school student that is thinking about like applying to MIT?
It depends, I guess, on like which grade they're in. But if you're, I guess, a high school senior, this would be particularly like pertinent now. Um, you won't. Okay, I'm assuming if you're a high school senior, I'm assuming that you already have a level of experiences built up, and so my bad. I'm going to back up, therefore. So, like, if you're like coming into high school, the first thing I would do is try to get a schedule that is heavy in math and physics, because that's what MIT is going to be screening for. So, AP Physics, AP Calculus AB. Particularly, you want to take AP Calculus BC by the time you graduate, because that's like the golden standard, I guess. If you can get chemistry and or biology as well, that'd be particularly useful. In addition to that, AP, also understand that APs aren't your only option. If there's a local community college around you, you could also pursue dual enrollment, which also has the advantage of being a bit um, faster, because you only have to take the class for a semester as opposed to the entire year. Another alternative to APs are IB, which is personally what I also did. IB stands for International Baccalaureate. And I think a lot of what IB did for me was develop my writing ability and get me used to like having 1,000 word essays due like every other week, no, or like multiple due in 1 week, and dealing with that pace. It also added to rounding out my academic profile, because again, I was taking the math, science, engineering courses through the AP curriculum I was doing, and then having the IB that was a bit more focused on liberal arts showed that I was a well-rounded and or balanced student, which served to the angle that I like applied with. So like that's from the academic standpoint. Obviously, you want to make sure that you're performing well in those classes, and assuming that this is early enough and you haven't already made like lasting impressions, do your best to build relationships with your teachers, because again, if you're going to be asking them for recommendations, it's not only that it's not you want teachers that can not only speak to your resume or accolades, but to your character as well, because that's what they're going to be looking for from there. Um, in addition to that, in terms of like the more application process side, I would say look into scholarships. If you're like, I guess like coming from a background like me, I would say Questbridge in particular, like that's where I applied through. I didn't end up matching, but even then, I think a good portion of like why I ended up getting in through the early action portal was because of the, I guess, the prompts that I mainly answered through Questbridge, because they had gotten that application as well. There's also Amazon Future Engineers as a useful scholarship. There's the Jack Kent Cook Scholarship. There's the Gates Millennium Scholarship. Um, I would also say look into I was about to say feeder programs, because they are like MIT's WISE, which is in the fall. The applications are due in sometime in summer, and then the program happens in the fall. And then there's also MITES, which is a summer program. I forget when the applications are due. It's probably sometime in spring. What else? What else? I would say, okay, like your essay is honestly, there's a principle called the Pareto principle, where 20% or less of the inputs are usually responsible to 80% of the positive outputs in a given system. And your essay is one of the 20% that is responsible for 80, because it is what gives context and personality to everything else that is even on your application profile. And especially at MIT, if MIT is a reasonable shot for you, that means you're probably strong academically. But the thing is, there's also 30,000 other people applying that also are strong academically, and so that's not going to be enough to make you stand out. You need to stick out as a person and understand that my main piece of advice overall is to just understand that you're not just sending your application into a void or to this magical conglomeration that is MIT. Is going to a person that is going to read it and then have to advocate for you in a round table of their peers. And like I would say, and also like the core thing that I think helped me when I was applying is that I knew that I wanted to be into entrepreneurship since I was about like 16. I had read The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and so I was 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and by the time I was applying, I think I'd also read $100 million Offers by Alex Hormozy, and I'd also read like Influence by Robert Cialdini, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, a bunch of different books that were on human psychology and as it relates to marketing and like product, and uh, and like understanding that at the end of the day, you're playing a game of sales. You're trying to market yourself as a candidate to the consumer that is MIT, the institution. And going a step further, they're trying to pick racehorses, essentially. They want to make an investment in you and then get the return on investment to their brand when you go do something super cool, because they can be like, hey, yo, look, that's an MIT alum. And that's literally like that's literally like what these schools are. Like, that's the transaction you're getting into. It's here's access to our resources in exchange for the brand, and access to our resources and brand association, which I'm not gonna lie, I am very much taking advantage of. In I guess like it's a quid pro quo. It's like, okay, cool, we both benefit by the fact that MIT looks cool. Yeah, and then following along that lines of understanding that it's a sales game, be like the way that I teach people when I like do consulting sessions is it's know your audience, know your angle, and then show, don't tell. So like knowing your audience is like understanding like behind the scenes what the admissions officers are looking for. And really quickly, I'm not sure if I mentioned it already, but there's 3 main axes of ratings. This is particular to MIT. There's the academic rating, there's the activities rating, and there's the interpersonal rating. Academic rating is what it sounds like. It's like the core question they're trying to answer is, will you be able to handle the rigor here? Because it is very rigorous. Oh my God, it is very rigorous. And so that comes through your like GPA, SAT scores, and like if you're doing Olympiads and whatnot, which also is a part of activity rating, which is like showing like who you are as a person. And their core question here is like, can you lead, and or will you take advantage of the resources and facilities that we have on campus? And so for me, I do like, again, like I play basketball. Yeah, like I just best believe I'm taking advantage of everything that's here. And then there's the interpersonal rating, and that's pretty much like, do we vibe? It's really, do you pass the vibe check, honestly? And that'll come through your essay, again, like really, really important. Your supplementals, in particular, like the why us, and then your interviews, if you get a conversation with an alumni. And like the main question they're asking here is like, if we put this kid in a class with our professors, will they want to talk to them? And I remember I was speaking to like an admissions officer, like they had worked at here and Harvard, etc. And the litmus test is essentially like, as the interviewer, like what you're thinking is, would I want to, instead of doing homework, would I want to talk to this person all night? Because that is what the stuff you do with your college friends here. So I was like, okay, will they fit in the community?
Well, I think that's extremely helpful. And I don't know, I hope if anybody from high school is listening to this, I think, yes, this helps a lot. So thank you very much
Of course.
for sharing that. And yeah, I think we're now going to start with the short answer questions. That's a typical section in the podcast. So are you ready for it?
Of course.
Um, okay, what's like one book recommendation?
Six Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden.
Mhm. What's friendship for you?
Friendship is being able to share both wins and losses with somebody.
Okay. Who's someone you look up to?
This sounds a bit narcissistic, but my future self.
Oh, um, okay. And the last one, what's happiness for you?
Whew. Approach. Like happiness isn't the destination, it's the journey. And I know that sounds so corny and like cliche, but if you think about it, right, like because again, like one of my main objectives is getting a sizable amount of wealth. Like in the back of my head, like I know for a fact you see enough people who have that amount of money and it doesn't make you happy. Or same thing with achievement. For example, like MIT was like my golden star for a long time, and you get it, and just because you get it, it doesn't make you happy. Happiness is I think for me, it comes from pursuit of a worthwhile goal.
Mhm.
And so it's like continuing to approach your North Star is where happiness is for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very insightful answer. So yeah, that's it. That's it for now. Thank you very much
Of
for
course.
coming to the podcast and for sharing everything that you have shared. I think yeah, it's very like you inspired a lot of students, and yeah, I wish you all the best during these years at MIT.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'll keep looking at your videos.
Likewise.
Yes, and yeah, and thank you everybody for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes coming soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.